Welcome to Whiskey Gaming, and this is my late review of Prince of Persia: The Lost Crown. I played on the PS5. It's also available on the PS4, Xbox One, Xbox Series X, Nintendo Switch, and PC. You play as Sargon, and he is a member of the Persian Immortals, which in this is reimagined as a special unit, and all of them have basically superpowers. After a great victory, Sargon and the Immortals are celebrating, and Prince Hassan is kidnapped. They chase the kidnappers to Mount Quaff, and that's where the story really kicks off. The weird, classic Prince of Persia time manipulation stuff starts to kick in. And I'm gonna say one really positive thing about the story is that there was a twist in here that I did not see coming at all, which at this point in time is kinda surprising. It really tripped me out because normally, they're like, oh, here's a big twist, and you've seen it coming many, many miles away, especially if you've been gaming or watching movies for as long as I have. Most big twists are not as big as they seem. This was a really awesome twist that I didn't see coming. Sadly, it didn't have as big of an impact on the story as I would have liked. Which also leads to another complaint of mine. The trailers for this game gave some shit away. If you've seen the trailers and then you play the first 10 minutes of this game, you see some of this shit coming, and that was really disappointing to me. They don't give away the big twist, but they do give away an earlier twist, and they really diminish its significance because you already saw it coming because of the trailers. But let's get on to the audio, and I gotta say, the voiceover work in this game is good. I think there are a few side characters that are barely even side characters that could have been done better. But otherwise, overall, I really liked the voiceover work. Then you've got the music, which I think the music in this game is really good. I think it works very well with everything going on. Do I think it's a great soundtrack? Do I think it's a phenomenal soundtrack? No. But I do think it's good, and when you're playing, it does help bring you in. As for the other sound effects, I think they're very well done. They're awesome with the different special abilities of the Immortals, as well as just the attacks and the creatures and everything else going on in the game. Which, let's get into the gameplay mechanics and whatnot. This is a Metroidvania style game with a healthy dose of Prince of Persia in it. And what I mean by that is there's a lot of traps throughout the castle, and I mean a lot of traps. It makes traversal frustrating at times because you're just trying to get from point A to point B, and you've got to jump through some serious hoops at times to do it, and that can get annoying. They do a decent job setting up shortcuts, as well as you unlock basically fast travel points across the map, which I thought was really cool. Also, when talking about the map, one of the really cool things that they implemented is you can basically take a photo of a chest that you can't reach right now and mark it on the map and come back to it later, so you remember why you marked it on the map, as well as you can mark it on the map instead of just stumbling around like an asshole. Although they do allow you to do that as well, there are two different modes for the map. There is guided, and then there's experience, which you just kind of wander around and find where you're trying to go. I personally used guided because, I'm trying to beat the game to review it. Now, when it comes to the combat, I thought there was a lot more depth to that than I was prepared for, just based on the items and other things. You have a decent number of attacks that you can combo, and they'll work better on some enemies than others. Although I will say I found, generally speaking, if you just want to, you can really use your just generic attack, and it'll get you most of the way. But you unlock these special abilities that are even more powerful attacks, and I thought that was cool, and those were really just well done, and they added a different element. And while you only had 2 slots, there were a bunch of different ones based on the charges that you built up to level 3, but you didn't have to do a level 3. You didn't have to do a level 1. You could do a level 2 and a level 3, and so on. You can mix and match, and I thought that added some awesome depth to it. You also find a blacksmith who can pimp out your gear, which is always nice. And you get a lot of gear, really. Although the gear is also kind of limited because you get an amulet where you can basically dangle charms off of it, and each of those charms is worth a certain number of amulet slots, and they'll give you different abilities, you'll build up more of your super doing regular attacks or parrying. You'll get some health back from parrying. You might freeze time from parrying, etc. But you can level those up. You can also level up your health, your potions, etc. A lot of stuff that we've seen before, but it works very well in the whole Metroidvania game genre, which is still a whole lot of exploring, gaining new abilities, going back, using those abilities to unlock and explore other areas, as well as using them in combat, etc. But let's move on to the controls, and I don't have any complaints with the controls. I think the controls work very well in this game. There were a few times where I felt like maybe when I was doing some of the traversal that it screwed me, but 99% of the time, I know I didn't hit the right button at the right time, which sucks. but it nonetheless means that it's working well, unfortunately, at the same time. And then let's get into the graphics and visuals, and oh my god, I was so excited for these. Just because so many Metroidvania games are pixel art, so for this to not be pixel art, I thought that was really cool. It's got an awesome cel-shaded style to it, so it has a very cartoonish look, but it's obviously not like a goofy cartoon, it's a serious style cartoon. I do think a lot of the character designs are really cool, whether it's the immortals or the side characters. I think they all have a pretty awesome design, and then the enemy designs, especially some of the bosses, I think are really awesome. And they're bright and colorful and cartoony, but again, not in like a cheesy or cutesy way. But I do appreciate the vibe that they brought to it with the mythology and all of that. But then let's talk about the map, the world, because like any good game, there's a ton of biomes in this map, and it's actually a pretty large map. And they're not necessarily all biomes, but like you'll be in the library of the castle, or like the entrance, temple, whatever. There's a forest area, an area near the beach, which that's kind of weird. Frozen mountain area, like stuff like that. But the thing is, they're all well designed. They all flow very nicely, but just from a visual standpoint, they're all cool. They are unique, and they all somehow fit in the world, even though they kind of shouldn't. So I appreciate that, and I did enjoy running around and exploring the world, which then we'll also talk about the creatures, because you have different enemies in different areas and they fit, and that was actually really cool. Like when you're in like the library area, you have a bunch of mad alchemists running around, and that's your primary enemy there. When you're in like the sewer area, there's creepy rat creatures and whatnot there. So I think they did a cool job with that and making the enemies fit in the areas that they are in. Just overall, from a visual standpoint, I was actually really pleased with this game. And I'm trying to think of like glitches and whatnot that I had. I really didn't have any, so I guess I'm just gonna move into the wrap up. And I gotta say, I really enjoyed this game. I wasn't quite sure what I was getting into because it's been a while since there's been a real Prince of Persia game. But I gotta say, this was a lot of fun, and turning it into a Metroidvania style game was really an awesome move. The story could have been a bit more unique, and they had the opportunity to do some really cool things that they missed out on, but it's not like it's necessarily a terrible story, just could have been better. But from the graphics to gameplay, I was actually really having a good time with this game. So yeah, I don't have a problem recommending this game. I really enjoyed it. Okay, in the comments down below, why don't you tell me, are you still like patiently waiting for a new 3D Prince of Persia, or like the remake of Prince of Persia Sands of Time? Because I'd really like that personally. And as always, thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please hit that like button. And if you like what I'm doing in general, share and subscribe. Have a good one.